AI filmmaking is the future.
Looks like AI slop is finally broken through the
Anyone who thinks this is the future is a schmuck.
This is the future. Get used to it.
You guys don't have any Szechuan sauce?
I want my Szechuan sauce.
Where is my Szechuan sauce?
I'm Pickle Rick.
AI is evil.
I'm Pickle Rick.
You're evil.
Now we got Google VO3, and generative AI is just kind of getting boring to me now. You know, I liked it more when it was still new, funky, and fresh, experimental. That's when all the interesting stuff tends to happen, but then the technology gets more perfect. More and more people start to use it, and it gets boring. You know, the internet got boring, YouTube got boring, the tragedy of the commons, blah, blah, blah. And now we got a war brewing between the film purists and the AI enthusiasts. AI is becoming political. It's being shoved in your face all over the place. Is AI going to replace filmmaking? Is generative AI the future? Should we all be lining up to lick Sam Altman's butthole? And the answer, of course, is probably not. Filmmaking is a bit unique as an art form because you have to go out into the world, interact with people, go to locations, and that gets you outside your bubble, your comfort zone. And these days, more and more people are living in their digital bubbles, their smartphone bubbles, their computer bubbles. So when you talk about using AI to make films, let's ignore animation for a moment, but talking about actual filmmaking, actually filming reality and trying to use that to tell a story, it's somewhat antithetical to the core of what that is, and I think that's where a lot of the backlash and aversion to it is coming from. AI might replace social media and commercials because these things are mostly nonsense, but it's not going to replace Hollywood or the film industry anytime soon. Hollywood might die in the near future, but it's not going to transform itself into AI studios before that happens. First off, I think it's bold of you guys to assume that Hollywood's even interested in AI as a cost-saving measure. Saving money was never really Hollywood's business model. Their business model was always spectacle and movie stars, and more recently pimping out filmmakers and directors as brands. That's traditionally why people have gone to the movies. And sure, these days, go ahead and throw recycled IP and nostalgia in there too, because people really seem to love that for some reason. But we are talking about a film industry that abandoned mid and low budget films a long time ago in order to gamble on $300 or $400 million blockbusters in the hopes of making $1 billion box office take worldwide. Where overpaid stars have long been the draw, and so I don't think AI really facilitates this business model, it only undermines it. Just because a new technology makes things cheaper or more productive doesn't automatically mean adoption everywhere, especially if that new technology completely undermines the economic business model. Disruptive tech business models often do work. We've seen it with Uber and Airbnb and countless things, so people go ahead and look at that and think that that can apply to the arts too, but I don't think so, not in the same way, not if we're talking about things people actually value and are willing to pay money for. Now, don't get me wrong, generative AI is going to replace a lot of things, you know, a lot of commercial work, social media content for sure, but I just don't see people flocking into theaters and paying $18 a head to watch a completely generated AI film. They'll stop going to theaters for other reasons. Maybe TikTok and YouTube really will just be the future of entertainment, and if AI filmmaking is going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen right here on YouTube, where the economics of traditional filmmaking never really panned out. But if you can generate a new film every day or every week, well, goddamn, buddy, you're going to be mining algorithm gold. So I think it's time to revisit the conversation about whether or not generative AI is theft, because I've been using AI, I've been experimenting with it for the past few years, even got my own AI film on the back burner, but in all that time, people have been complaining and whining that it's just stealing from artists and painters because it's training on publicly available data, and that's an argument to make, but now we've moved on to video, and if we're talking about Google VO3, a company like Google, they're training all their AI models on YouTube data people voluntarily upload. It's in the terms of service. They're going to use your video to train on.
And so now, really, is it theft? Who's to say, but they have the legal right to do it now. And I don't think it's any more theft than the theft that's already been going on for the past 10, 20 years, where we use Facebook, we use Google, we use YouTube. They're taking all the data we upload, they're making products off of it, they're already stealing it in a sense. We all agree to it, but when it comes to the internet and tech companies, you're the product and you're the consumer. But that's the way the world is right now. And if you have a problem with that, then we all need to just kind of opt out of using all these platforms. Of course, nobody's going to do that. We're all going to continue to use YouTube and Facebook and X and all these other companies, and they're going to continue to use our data to train AI models and do God knows what else. And that's kind of the state of the world right now. So to complain about generative video being theft, even if you're talking about a company that's not Google, you're going to license data from Google. So at this point, you're not really stealing from artists, you're stealing from everyone in a sense, but that's the new paradigm.
Ho, 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 it's magic, you know.
So you go out and you look at an 8-second video clip right now and you think to yourself, wow, that looks pretty good. That looks real. And the natural extrapolation people are making, a lot of them are making, was that 5 to 10 years down the road, you're going to be able to go out and generate a whole new season of Firefly or Cowboy Bebop or a new Terminator or Alien movie, whatever you're into. And it's going to be great. No, it's not going to be fucking great. You're confusing intellectual property with an art form, with filmmaking, you know?
All right.
It's a common mistake. It's why people go out and still pay for new Star Wars films, but none of those films are ever very good, are they? And that's because people are confusing packaging and branding with the essence of the thing. Firefly isn't a good show just because it's a good show. It didn't will itself into existence. It's a good show because Josh Whedon and some other writers and some filmmakers and some craftspeople all came together to fulfill a creative vision. You can train AI on the end result of that all day. All you're ever going to get back is pale mimicry. Just like Hollywood has all the rights, the data, the analytics to the original Ghostbusters franchise, and yet they can't seem to replicate the magic of that original film because Bill Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Elmer Bernstein, and sure, Ray Parker Jr. with that kick-ass song, they all came together to make a film of that particular time in our culture. It's a time capsule, and that's all art really is. You know, I was at the Getty a few months ago. It's just room after room after room of the Madonna, because guess what was popular during the Renaissance? You can't replicate the essence of a thing just by training a computer algorithm on the end product. All you're ever going to get back is more derivative end products. That's what people already complain about Hollywood for doing. Endlessly recycling content and IP reboots and rehashes and prequels. And when I said I find generative AI kind of boring right now, for me it really is just an effort thing. You know, I don't use TikTok or Instagram or any of these micro-lazy content platforms because I find it all to be pretty boring. And generative AI, it's going to sync up very nicely with that. It's kind of the perfect storm we're living in right now. That's why this is all getting so hyped up. Whereas if we were living in the past 20, 30 years ago, where hour-long TV shows and 90-minute films were still a dominant form of entertainment. Back before the content arms race began, before phones, before the internet, people would actually line up days, sometimes weeks ahead of time in line for movie tickets, just so they could be among the first people to see them. This is how much people used to care about film. I know it sounds absurd, but I have very clear memories of Tim W. cutting class in high school just to get tickets to the Phantom Menace at our local theater.
He's been our strongest supporter.
And now, these things only exist in my memory. I want to talk about cinematography because out of all the things you can train an AI to do, I don't think you can train it to do proper cinematography, not yet, possibly never. And cinematography isn't all of filmmaking, but it's a big part of it. And these are simple shots, cheesy stuff I shot this morning, a push in, a jib up, static shots, parallax shots, and you probably could prompt VO3 to do most of these right now. I imagine you still might have trouble telling it to jib up and then hold for a while, you know, the fine controls of filmmaking, but it's also very easy for me to just go out and shoot this. It took me about an hour and a half to shoot 40 seconds, which sounds slow, but it's not in filmmaking. Over the past couple years, I've built up lenses, other equipment, techniques, skills, and if I'm shooting myself, I can kind of move the camera with fishing line and all these kind of tricks and things, and it's fun to learn new skills. As a human, to get better at things, to think up some shots and then go out and execute them. That's part of the fun of doing anything. But these are simple shots. How about complex shots? Towards the beginning of this video, there's a compound shot where I push in, but then I'm also tilting up with the camera on my Ronin app. And how do you tell an AI to do that? Two things separately. Or this shot, I was trying to get Runway ML to do where I wanted to start with a close-up and then pull back and jib up to a wide shot. You gotta kind of tilt down where you're jibbing up and all kinds of stuff, and I couldn't get the AI to do it. I've done a shot like this before for my short film, so I know how to do it, and I had like 3 people helping me, and you set up the shot, describe what you're trying to do, and there's a bit of coordination involved, but you're working with people. You all figure out how to get the shot eventually. I also have this wonder in my short film, and I have to be in the shots, so I made a lot of storyboards and explained to Carl, the camera operator, what we were trying to do, and you rehearse it a few times, and eventually you get pretty close to what you had in mind, because again, you're working with humans who can think and interpret what you're trying to tell them. Now, conceivably, you could train an AI how to do complex compound shots, or at least interpret, someone's complicated idea, but we're talking about really specific ways to move a camera, and for that an AI has to not only be trained on videos of complex camera moves, but who's ever doing the training also has to go in and use language to tag those videos the end user is going to be able to understand and use to prompt the AI. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but then again, a lot of cinematography you see in bigger films is stuff, I'm not going to say stuff that's never been done before, but sometimes it has never been done before. And if you want to do movies like that with AI, I'm not sure it's possible, because it only knows how to do what it's been trained on. You can, of course, do it in 3D because the 3D program is just an approximation of real-world geometry, but generative AI is an approximation of its training data. And yeah, you can train on humans and motion and all these things, and it can eventually get very good at it, but the more intangible a problem is, the more you kind of just need a human brain that understands movement through 3D space. And when it comes to things like that, it's going to be hard for generative AI to do it because it's not alive, it's not conscious, it doesn't have any experience of moving through space. It's all approximations based on video recordings and text and audio signals or whatever. And life is more complex than all of that. I think it is amazing what it can do, but until AI achieves actual
sentience,
there's always going to be some hard limits, and we all have to try to understand that.
I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you.
So I guess what really frustrates me about all this AI stuff is that the technology hasn't gone where I would have wanted it to go, 2 or 3 years ago when I first noticing it and thinking about the potential and what might happen. All I really wanted to do, all I'd really been trying to do since then was turn myself into like a digital puppet, because if you can do that, if you can capture your performance and you can play like a man or a woman or a child or whatever, you can just film yourself and make a whole movie, switch it up, change your voice with AI. And of course, that's just not where the focus has been, except for locally. Locally, we're just about there. I spent all day today and part of yesterday just getting 2.1 to work, and it looks real good. It's pretty much solved all the issues with hands and stuff. I mean, it's still not perfect, but it's getting very passable. And then you got flex and all this, changes have been happening, but that's on the local side, the side for nerds, people like me. Your average person doesn't want to deal with Python dependencies and finding the quantified model that works perfectly with your video card or whatever. They just want to log into a website, upload a video, do whatever with it.
And on that side of things, all these tech companies, they've been so hyper-focused on just generative video, just generating video from a prompt, which from a filmmaking perspective, every now and then might be useful, but for the most part, it's like useless if you're actually trying to make a film. And I don't know if it's because tech CEOs don't understand a goddamn thing about filmmaking, or they're just greedy, or they just want to appeal to the lowest common denominator, just like social media and the internet and all the technology we already have, so people can make memes and off with it or whatever. But from a filmmaking perspective, it's completely useless. And you know, you got Google VO3 and they're talking to a guy like has enough clout and fame to just go out. Cameron, who's like maybe a little too excited about technology. You got a 12 gigabyte 3060, you get double the RAM, shouldn't be like quadruple the cost. It makes no sense. NVIDIA has a monopoly on this stuff right now. You can kind of use all these online ones, but it's nowhere near as useful as the local prompt is not making a film, because you have no control. There's no nuance to the performance. It's just not filmmaking, guys. It's never going to be filmmaking. You need to get a little bit of humanity in there, you know, a little piece of yourself or other people. Now you got something approaching what looks like a film. So Hollywood will either embrace AI or they won't. Who cares? There's a bigger issue going on here, and that's people's misplaced trust and faith in technology. You know, whether you're talking about your high up tech CEO or your lowly common man, a lot of that right now is probably just, I bought an AI stock and I wanted to go up. But besides that, there's a fundamental misunderstanding when it comes to art and film and music, even the internet and social media. Why do all these things exist? They exist for people to create things and share things, come together and connect with other people. That's really it. And in a tech CEO's brain or his black cold heart, if he even has one, I know that deep down they'd really like to just eliminate content creators, humans, not have to deal with the human element of their platforms, just to have AI or whatever magic technology generate things for people to consume. But it's never going to happen, you know. The more algorithmic these platforms get, the more manipulated, the more people just go out and produce slop content with or without AI, the less anybody wants to use these things, because you're undermining the point of everything, you know. You're undermining humanity, because humanity is not a content slop factory. Humanity is full of individuals with dreams and hopes and ideas and creative ambitions, and we all come together to try to share all that and create valuable things. And not even AI, just social media in general. YouTube's algorithms, Spotify's algorithm. There's this band called Velvet Sundown out there right now. You probably heard of it, AI band. Hundreds of thousands of listeners because the algorithm pushed them, because the algorithms push shit. That's all they know how to do. They only know how to push engagement and analytics. They can't get deep down into the nuance of what it means to be a human, and they never will. When it comes to Spotify or even YouTube though, you know, like if you're a musician or an artist, you know that Spotify is trash. Like, you know you're not getting paid anything but pennies, even for thousands of streams. And so you gotta go out and you gotta play shows and you gotta sell merchandise and you gotta build connections with people, just like on YouTube. AdSense isn't paying your bills, so you gotta go out, you gotta get Patreon supporters, and you gotta get sponsors or whatever to survive. And these platforms are all, you know, greedy tech bullshit platforms. AI is really just the scapegoat. You're just waving that around people's face to distract them from the fact that this is happening. It's already been happening. You know, it's stupid. That's what we do these days, though. You wave things in people's faces and you go, ooh, oh, look at that. Let's argue about this politically now. Let's have a big old circle jerk about this or that. Let's talk about trending topics. You know, it's all a bunch of nonsense. It's all a bunch of crap. I hope people start to like wake up and see through all that and focus on the actual problem of what's going on here, and that's we've given our lives away, we've given our data away, we've given everything away, our attention. You got millions of people trying to become famous on YouTube, working for free. Millions of kids thinking they're gonna strike it rich by making the same crap that everyone else is making, and that's the world we're living in. The algorithm doesn't care. It doesn't care about human life, human effort, human thought, creativity, passion. It just kicks it by the wayside in favor of whatever's the most engaging or clickbaity or rage-baity or gets the strongest reaction out of people. And that's the world we live in. AI is the least of our problems. It's certainly not going to help anything, but it's not the main issue here.
What I would say, this is my advice, take it or leave it. If you do want to make a film, don't start with prompting and go out there and shoot stuff and edit it together. Figure out how to actually make a film, Don't try to leapfrog that whole process to try and make your AI masterpiece, Once you got the fundamentals down, then sure, play with AI or clay or whatever you think is going to help you get your artistic vision across. But even when we're talking about entertainment, not even talking about art, you gotta start somewhere and you gotta start with something. Your life has to have meaning, at least to you, because if it doesn't, then it really was all just a bunch of AI slop.
Sorry, who are you? I am the only man to have ever read the entire menu.
Look, I don't want to call anyone out, start internet trauma. I hardly know what I'm doing myself most days, and I know AI video is largely a meme subreddit, and this video is just a joke, but these are horrible, horrible eyelines. This is what I'm talking about when I say people are going to try to generate video, make films without knowing anything about filmmaking. Let's see if I can use all my expertise to fix these. Oh, well, there you go. I just flipped it. Now it looks fine. Still not perfect because now lighting doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, I'd rather have incorrect lighting than messed up eye lines. Basic stuff, everyone.